Many players playing as white here would be okay with a draw. However, it's white to move and white is completely winning here. And the winning idea is very instructive and is going to leave you speechless. If we decide to play a move like this, trying to gain a tempo on the rook, well, the rook just goes into the square and the rook is stopping our pawn from marching forward, and this position is completely equal. So what is the winning idea here? Well, the winning idea here is to sacrifice the pawn on d4. Black can decide to accept the sacrifice this way or this way, and they can decide to ignore the sacrifice and just move into any of these square. We are going to explore all of this move in this video, so stick around and watch till the end. If they decide to capture with their rook, well, then come this move. We are controlling this square, so the rook can't go into the square to stop our pawn. And if black tries to play a move like this, we push our pawn forward and we push the pawn forward again. They are forced to give up the rook for the queen, and after the trade, we are left with a completely winning position. So what can black try to play here? They can't play a move like this because our knight is controlling the square, but it looks like they can give a check here. We simply move our king here, and if they play a move like this, trying to stop the pawn or even capture the pawn on the next move, well, it doesn't work because we have this check and that's just a fork. And on the next move, we pick up the rook and we are left with a completely winning position. If black decide to capture the pawn with their king, well, we push our pawn forward and this move looks like a mistake. Well, it's not a mistake. The rook goes behind the pawn, trying to pick up the pawn on the next move. We simply play a move like this. We are threatening to promote on the next move and they will be forced to give up their rook. So they capture here, not letting the pawn promote, but then comes this fork, and on the next move, we pick up the rook and we are left with a completely winning position. So capturing the pawn this way or this way doesn't work. So what if black decides to play a move like this? Well, that doesn't work. We play a move like this and that's a fork on the king and the rook. We pick up the rook and we are left with a completely winning position. So capturing with the king or with the rook or moving into the square doesn't work. So what if black decides to play a move like this? Well, we simply push our pawn forward. Now they go behind the pawn, trying to pick up the pawn on the next move, and it looks like we are going to lose the pawn, but then comes this move, and after they capture the pawn, then comes this move, and that's a fork on the king and the rook, and on the next move we pick up the rook and we are left with a completely winning position. So what if black decide to play a move like this instead? Well, we push our pawn forward, they go behind the pawn, and what can we do here? Well, then comes this check, and on the next move we promote to a queen. They are forced to give up their rook and we pick up the rook and we are left with a completely winning position. Don't forget to like and follow for more videos like this.